Alright guys, now we're going to talk about the GammaRAE IIR meter. Actually, it's a personal dosimeter, and I guess you could use it for a survey meter as well. We've had these for some time. A lot of people don't really know how to operate them, so I'm just going to give a real quick breakdown on operation. Hopefully you guys can see most of this, and I'm going to try to do this backwards with one hand. So the GammaRAE IIR is a wearable personal dosimeter. Detects gamma radiation, obviously. It has a few functions. Right here, when you start the meter, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to go through a self-check. It's going to check the gamma sensor, and it'll tell you whether it's okay or not. Next check it's going to do is it's going to automatically update the background of where you're at. So if you're planning on using this for an incident or a response, make sure that you're in an area that's clean, essentially, and away from any radiation sources. Like, you don't want to be doing this right next to the Ludlum because it's got the gamma source on it, yada yada, that kind of stuff. So this meter's already been up and running. There's a 10-minute warm-up period for this meter. To use this meter, it's simply just turn it on and wear it. But I'm going to flip through some of the functions and talk about them a little bit more in depth than our last video that we did. See if I can't zoom in here just a little bit. So right here, for the mode button, if you press it once, you're going to go ahead and illuminate the background. It says update background. If you just press it again, you can go ahead and scroll through it. Right here is your peak dosage screen, and that's in it's hard to see, but it's in micro R per hour. That's the highest dose I've received since turning on the meter and zeroing it out. Next is my minimum dose. Obviously, my minimum dose since I've turned on the meter has been 0. My current dose so far is 0 micro R per hour for greater than 1 year. I just zeroed this meter out prior to doing this, so gives you the time and the date and how long the unit's been on. Gives you the battery condition and the ambient temperature, and some communication options, and back you're now into normal reading mode. So if you wanted to flip this screen the other way, you simply sit and you hold this mode button, and it should invert it the other way. Oop, nope, it must be the set button. My apologies. Like I said, I'm doing this backwards. There we go. So if for some reason you wanted to read it the other way, maybe you've got this thing clipped to a bucket and you're facing it versus it being clipped to your belt, that would be one option. If it was clipped to your belt, obviously you'd want to read it this way. So one thing to think about when you're using this meter is that since it's a dosimeter, you want to zero this thing out before you go. So you're going to double press both these buttons right here, and you're going to go into a program mode. So right here is the program mode. Man, this is really hard to see. I hope you guys can see this. Password is 0000. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to OK. Scroll with the mode button and set to change any of the units of measure. And I'm going to go ahead and I believe hit set. It says pausing data logging. And here you can change the type of alarms. You don't need to go in there and change the type of alarms. The mode button's going to scroll you up and down through the table of contents, and the set button's going to be to change the settings. Data log, don't worry about that. Basics, don't worry about that. Defaults, don't worry about that. This is what you're looking for, is clear dose. So when you hit the clear dose, we're going to hit the set button. Clear dose, hit the set button. Clear dose succeeded. So now your meter is back to 0 micro R per hour. So you can get an accurate account of how much radiation you've received during the event. So one more thing down to quit, into enter, and it starts data logging again. So some things about this to talk about is the alarms in here. We finally was able to get in there and access the alarms. The low dose alarm is that 5R an hour limit for all activities. The high dose alarm is the 25R for life-saving and voluntary only type capabilities. You can set this to survey or safety. Currently this is set to safety, so that institutes two other safety alarms, which are the high safety alarm is 200 micro R per hour, and the safety low alarm is 50 micro R per hour, both significantly more than 2 times background. So that should help to alert you guys before you guys get into any trouble. While you are getting your dose, it's cumulatively counting the radiation that you're receiving. So as you hit that, your low dose alarm, if you're within that 2-hour range, it's going to go ahead and alarm. It's going to alarm to let you know that you're within 2 hours. And what it's going to do is that alarm is not like a full alarm. It's going to beep once per minute. When you have less than 3 minutes of dose time remaining, it's going to not only beep, but it's going to vibrate. And then when you're out of dose rate time, you're going to go ahead and get the full alarm with the beep, the lights, and the vibrate. So we've had these a while. I recommend that you guys continue to check them. Make sure that you guys are pulling out the batteries regularly to check the batteries and make sure they're not corroded in there. And as you're doing that, the hex key right here, as you can see, this one is already starting to show. Be careful when you guys are putting those on. You don't need to overly super tighten them. You can see that this one's almost cracked through all the way, and there is a little tab here that you need to like, kind of get in there, like an alignment tab, prior to putting the top on. So be careful pulling these off, or you're going to damage them like this. I'm going to have to go ahead and order a new cover for this one. So, but I just wanted to give you a little bit more in-depth overview of our dosimeters and compared to the last video. So if you guys have any questions, you know where to find me, and I'll go ahead and post this on AVFD Hazmat Training and put it up on the brief.